One of the most damaging accusations against me was the one that suggested I was forcing my ex to work because I wouldn't. This made me worse than an infidel based upon the way most read 1 Timothy 5:8. Jim Parkinson is the one who brought this to my attention at a Paul Malley seminar in 2004. You see, Jim believed the accusation. It's a strange accusation in a way. I was at the point of exhaustion taking care of my own. I was in the fight of my life defending myself against a number of false accusations so that my daughter wouldn't lose her dad. My father was ill and needed constant care and help. My ailing, consecrated aunt needed assistance. And most of all, I was working as hard as I could, as hard as I knew how, to make a living and pay my bills. Jim's accusation hit me like a sledgehammer. Someone I thought so highly of actually thought so poorly of me that he would simply accuse me rather than ask me if it was true. To examine this accusation, let's look at 1 Timothy 5:8. The verse is often quoted to support the idea that you should provide for your wife and kids. I completely agree that we must provide and be responsible for our family's needs. However, that is not what Paul's talking about here. Paul's statement falls right in the middle of a discussion about the care of widows in the church. So what he's saying should have something to do with widows. A widow is what you call your wife after you die. I'll come back to this in a minute. Let's look at the accusation that I was not providing for my wife and child, financially or otherwise. What was I doing? I was my daughter's primary caregiver. After our kid was born, my wife and I sat down and discussed how we would go about taking care of her. We had two options. One, my wife could return to work and I would continue to work from home while caring for our daughter, and we could keep our existing lifestyle. Or B, we could live off what I was making, but we would have a lower standard of living. Either choice was fine with me. However, my wife made the choice to go back to work. It was 100% her choice. After all, from the beginning of the marriage, she didn't want children. She wanted a career. So, what was I doing with my time? Was I sitting around watching TV? Was I out with friends? Was I playing golf or goofing off? Was I, involved with some hobby that took a lot of time? None of those. I was the one feeding, bathing, teaching, cleaning up after, and everything else you do for a small child. Many men and most women who have never had a child have no understanding of how much work a child is. And mine was not easy. She was strong-willed, hypersensitive, extremely active, and anything but compliant. She demanded a lot of time and attention. But taking care of her wasn't all I was doing. I was also working in my business the best I could, and I made enough money to pay all of our essential bills. It was my income, not my ex's, that paid for the mortgage, the groceries, and the utilities, and other bills. I took care of the house, inside and out. I did virtually all the house cleaning and cooking, except on weekends. And I was taking care of my consecrated aunt's affairs, trying to manage her property and business so that her medical and nursing home bills were paid. And that took a lot of time. And I was also helping with my ailing father's care, sometimes pulling all-nighters. I helped maintain my parents' home and work at their rental property to keep them rented so that their income could continue coming in. I worked 7 days a week, 14 to 18 hours a day without a break much of the time. I didn't take days off. I didn't take vacations. For years, I seldom took time to go to conventions. And when my business income dropped, and I went out and got a second income, or a second job in 2002, and did that on top of everything else for 6 or 7 months to help pay the bills. During that stint, I didn't even have time to attend Sunday meetings. I'm willing to compare my accuser's workload to that of my own at any time. I'm fairly certain none of them ever worked as hard or as long or under as much stress as I did during those years. To a person, they should be ashamed of themselves for making such an accusation without availing themselves of the facts. No, not one of them, including Jim Parkinson, ever took care of their own like I did. I have nothing to be ashamed of. The accusation is completely without an ounce of merit. Now let's look at 1 Timothy 5:8. Why is Paul chastising those who don't care for their own? Well, those who need care are widows. He's not talking about husbands not taking care of their wives and children. He's talking about grown kids not taking care of mom after dad's passed away. He doesn't want the church to be burdened with the care of widows or any other family member for that matter, because their own family isn't taking care of them. That's the point. It does not say in any way that men are to go out and get a job and women cannot work. Paul is not saying that holding a position at some company constitutes taking care of your own. Sadly, many brethren do not understand the passage any better than that, though. When the facts are examined, no one in the church was helping me care for my family. No one in my family went hungry, slept on the street, went without clothing or medical. And no one in the church took care of my daughter or my dad or my aunt, who was a widow. No one even volunteered to help, especially no one who accused me. Nor did anyone give us money. When bad people want to accuse you, they don't need a valid reason. When the scribes and Pharisees wanted to accuse Jesus, they took any accusation they could get. Truth did not matter. The same is true of the accusers who live and thrive in the Bible students today. Some brethren think wives should stay home to serve them, and I think that's just fine if that's what they have agreed to. My ex and I did not have that agreement. My ex wanted a career and not children, and made that very clear when we married. When she wanted to go back to school and not work, I supported that. I never demanded that she work. And when she wanted to pursue her career after our child was born, I believe she had the right to make that decision herself. I had no right to suppress her. And I had every right to make the personal sacrifices I did to care for my own in ways that were not monetary. Another point I have to make here. I have no doubt that when it served her purposes, my ex played the victim and told people that I was not working and that she was forced to work. Engendering sympathy and support against enemies, real or imagined, is what she does best. She's been doing it since she was a child. It's who she is. Sadly, even though many of my accusers had known me for longer than they'd known her, they chose to believe the lies rather than pursue truth. Not a single person asked me if the accusations were true. They all wanted to believe the lies. These brethren, this behavior by a number of brethren is strong evidence of the current spiritual state of the Bible students today. My next video in this series is my last one. In that video, I will share with you some of my opinions and conclusions. Please proceed to video A8. And thank you for watching.